I just can't see her entering the North, especially with winter coming. I just can't see that.
And getting access to him and all of that. Yeah.
Right, but Dany with the Dosh Colleen, that makes a lot of sense. Jon being resurrected, 100%. That makes
him leaving the Watch with that loophole that fans always talked about. Arya versus the Waif, I could see as show only. Like, legitimately. I think this is the first one so far that I'm like, that doesn't seem like George.
These jetpacks are starting to make me nervous, right? Because what if it's not David Dan? What if it's George?
Maybe it's George. You're right, to get these plot points going. Welcome. How is everyone this evening? I'm joined by Carmine early here. He was being funny with me because I was like Carmine, are you going to be at the beginning of the stream? I got some things I want to talk to you about as part of the topic. And then he's like, I got to run some errands. I was like, what? No. How you doing though? I will get to comments and everything, but part of this is the topic we're talking about tonight, which is about different show plots. We've talked about this a little bit with on our most recent podcast, but different show plots that at the time we thought these were like crazy and stupid, and that George would never do that sort of thing. But I think over time, we've opened up with the idea that like actually most of the plots, if not all of the plots in the show might have been George's idea. Like, do you think that's too far to say, Carmine?
I would go as far as saying they were his original ideas. But no longer. Yeah.
That he changed them. So I want to talk about a few of these things, a few of these show plots. This is I made it's not an exhaustive list here. It's but of various things that happen in the show. Some of them people think would never happen in the books. Some are impossible to happen in the books, but I think some of them are interesting in that these may have been George's ideas anyway, at least in an earlier draft of his book. So for example, like Stannis losing to Ramsay. Do you think that's going to happen in the book?
Before you start, there are three things you should probably check off immediately because George pretty much confirmed they're going to happen no matter what, which is Shireen burning, Hold the Door, and Bran is king. So how do we get to Shireen being burned?
Well, that's the thing but this is the thing. If we're talking about George's original ideas before, he's still kind of, and he tells D&D this, but then he writes himself into a point that's impossible logistically. What are we supposed to do? Like all of these things are correct. Yeah. Like Stannis losing to Ramsay. There is a small seed in the Theon sample chapter for wins of Stannis being pretty arrogant. Like, why should I fear Ramsay? That makes you kind of go, oh, maybe he is gonna lose to Ramsay. But like Stannis burning Shireen is weird because he specifically told D&D, but it seems really logistically unlikely. Like Stannis somehow has to win, and like how does Stannis both lose against Ramsay and make it back to the Wall to execute Shireen? All of like he has to somehow win, make it to the Wall, come back, lose to Ramsay. Like it's so much time. It's logistically really unlikely, and yet it does seem like these kind of are George's ideas.
There is one way I can think of is that Stannis loses to Ramsay initially, and then after that big battle, Stannis withdraws, licking his wounds. He wants to go back to the Wall, and at the same time, news reaches the Wall that Ramsay won, and he now wants Selyse and all of the other Stannis supporters at the Wall. And with all the chaos at the Wall, Selyse realizes she has to take her family and they have to leave. And maybe they meet up halfway with Stannis, and there it is.
Yeah, but it's also so weird, like because in the show it's very specific that they're sacrificing Shireen for good weather, and they've already sacrificed people for like weather. Like the storm already happened. Are you gonna have another storm? And another sacrifice? And
What are you thinking? Shireen goes to bring back Jon?
I think it's just one of those things that like George planned and then he wrote and he's stuck. Like the thing is like we're assuming that George is going to work this out. I don't know if George is going to work this out because like how do you logistically have all of that happen? Like it just doesn't seem possible.
I like this comment here. Quentin is alive in the show, so he must be alive in the books.
Well, he kind of never existed. Right, or something.
And
I
as
don't know.
such, he could never.
I lost you there for a second, Carmine.
I said, as such, if he never existed, he could never die. Therefore,
Yeah,
yeah, there you
that's
go.
true. Okay, another one that I think is a little weird is Brienne kills Stannis. And I think that like in Clash, when Brienne becomes attached to Catelyn, she specifically says, "You can never stand in my way on my mission to kill Stannis." And Catelyn's like, "I won't," And you're like, "Oh, so this eventually down the road, we're gonna like deal with this plot of Brienne
Clever,
killing
yeah.
Stannis." But logistically, they're just nowhere close on the map, and I just can't see Brienne ever making it to the north to kill Stannis in the end.
Every single chapter of Winds, if it ever does come out, has to have major developments where characters are essentially jetpacking all over the place for them all to be in position to line up with the show.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's just one of those things where, like, again, like, I think George thought about this and maybe even planned it and told D&D that. But then when he finally wrote A Feast for Crows, A Dance with Dragons, like, it was impossible. Logistically, it cannot happen.
So I'll say this: Stannis losing to Ramsay, that's almost certain. Brienne killing Stannis, very unlikely. Feels more like show fanfic than anything.
Yeah. Ilaria usurps Dorne. Myrcella killed by the Dornish. There's a little bit of some people were very angry about the Ilaria thing because they're like, but Ilaria's personality is the exact opposite of that in the Watcher chapter. And I was like, you're right, but at the same time, like she puts her spy Elia in and attaches her to Ariane's like journey, and spreads her children around, which seem to be like their spies to me. So I'd say that like it's not unheard of that Ilaria could do this, or that Myrcella could be eventually killed by the Dornish or something like that. Somebody like, especially with like Doran going around telling everybody these lies about how Cersei meant to kill Trystane and stuff like that. You'd think that somebody could easily be like, "Fuck, I'm just going to kill Myrcella then," that would just be a possibility. Do you think this is possible?
Yes, Ilaria hiding her true intentions, the viper in the grass. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, if she is Oberyn's woman. Dany with the Dosh Colleen, I think this is pretty certain that this was happening.
Yeah.
This was we have a vision of this. I think that everything that I think that Dany getting captured and going back and joining the Dosh Colleen and then rising to the top of the Dosh Colleen. The thing is in the books we're specifically told that the Khals already follow the Dosh Colleen, and then which doesn't really make sense. The show actually makes more sense where they're like, yeah, supposedly, but in reality, no, that the Khals like rule. Come on. But yeah, this seems very likely that she could just, burn all she could burn all the Khals in a red wedding kind of situation, just like she does in the show, and take over as the head of the Dosh Colleen. Like that all makes sense to me.
I agree.
Jon Resurrection leaving the Watch.
When it comes to the like our main characters like Danny and John, I feel like the show is pretty much following the template George set out. When it comes to like secondary or third characters or
Mm.
background characters, it's a toss up.
So
So for
you're gonna
John,
say
Danny,
that like
Tyrion,
of all of the people that they would not stray from the path on, it would be John and Danny.
John, Danny, Bran, Arya.
Mm.
I could see them straying with like Jamie. Like I can't imagine. Mm, like Brienne killing Stannis, like it's just she's so far from that, and the story, her chapters would have to move at breakneck pace to just
Yeah,
catch up with where Stannis is. I
yeah.
just can't see her entering the North, especially with winter coming. I just can't see
And
that.
getting access to him and all of that. Yeah.
Right, but Danny
So
with the Dosh Colleen, that makes a lot of sense. John being resurrected, oh, 100%. That makes
him
a lot of
leaving the
sense.
watch with that loophole that fans always talked about. Like, do you think
It
that
is
I
clever.
have this watch until my death is like the whole joke the whole time?
It's clever. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
why not?
Okay. Sam going to Horn Hill and stealing the sword. I mean, it seems
Hmm.
he's near Horn Hill now. The Ironborn are going to attack Old Town. It seems fairly likely that he would flee to Horn Hill. I don't know if his dad's sword is on his dad or like we never hear about the sword that Randall carries. He should carry it, but um, it's weird if Randall leaves it at home. But does Sam get the sword? I don't know. Any opinions on this one?
Hmm. Do we know for a fact that the sword is in Hornhill? Because
No,
I
we
would
have no
imagine,
idea where the sword is.
right? So I would imagine Randall Tarley would have him
He
there,
should. It's really
either.
weird. What it's Heartsbane, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Um
Because right now he's in King's Landing.
okay, he wears it with Renly. And then it says that he has it at Maidenpool. So, okay, on the map, it's just Randall is way too far from Sam. It seems very logistically unlikely. But this is one of those things where like, well, if Sam was going to escape Horn Hill, maybe at some point like George thought he was gonna like face his father and steal this sword. Um, to get a Valyrian sword to the wall and stuff like that. Another Valyrian sword to the wall. It could have been George's plan, but logistically, this is just impossible. I don't. Randall has the sword, and Randall is in King's Landing, and Sam is in Old Town, and they are just too far from each other.
The only way I could possibly see this is that Randall Tarley has to hurry back home because
Mm.
the Ironborn invasion of the Reach has been way too successful, and he has to defend his lands. They've overtaken Old Town. They're just spreading further into the Reach, raping and killing and looting, and he just needs to go back. That's how I could see Sam getting to Horn Hill.
Yeah. It,
Maybe the Red Wine
Randall has to
fleet
move at
doesn't.
breakneck speed. Randall has to,
Yeah,
considering
see what
that.
I mean?
Yeah,
These jetpacks are starting to make me
I know,
nervous
right?
because what if it's not David Dare? What if it's George?
Maybe it's George. You're right to get these plot points going. Because George thought he had years and years and years, and this was going to be a multi-generational story and all of this crap. Like now it's not. Um, there's like maybe a year left in the story. Arya versus the Waif. Do you think any of that is in?
That one's a bit more difficult, but that one I can't. Arya's story I can't really tell because the show version is so fucking dumb. But I don't know. That's a toss up. I don't know. Her
The
leaving
Waif is just.
Bravos.
I mean, the Waif doesn't seem that important to me. I don't know. Maybe.
No, but hmm, she has to leave Bravos eventually, right? So
Yeah.
she can't be a
Um.
rogue agent.
This Arya versus the Waif, I could see as show only. Like legitimately, I think this is the first one so far that I'm like that doesn't seem like George. Like all the rest of them seem like this could have been a George idea that he communicated to D&D and they aborted it. Or I'm sorry, as George wrote the books, things changed a little and made them impossible. But Arya versus the Waif is just so, that's not how the Waif has been established. There's no hint of any rivalry between them. So I just don't know if I see that at all. It just, while the show firmly establishes that the Waif hates Arya and they have a rivalry, and there's just none of that in the book, like zero. So this is the only one where I'm just
real quick. Was there any
show...
legitimacy to the Waif hating Arya? She just hates her for no reason,
right? Doesn't she in the show?
I maybe though I think it's because the Waif can sense that Arya is not serious about being a faceless men assassin, which fine, and the Waif is super into it, but I don't know, it felt kind of forced thinking back on it. I'm sorry, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The Umbers catch Rickon.
Last Hearth is it is close to Skagos, so
right. Like they come back
Davos,
from Skagos and then they get captured by the Umbers, and like,
well, with Ramsay solidifying his position as the dominant person in the north if he decides to kill Roose Bolton, the Umbers and all the other houses are watching this battle between Stannis and Ramsay to see who wins. The Umbers could give him Rickon as a gift.
Yeah, I mean, like especially we know that Mor's Umber dies from the Asha fragment.
Mm-hmm.
And so that leaves okay, so right now what we've got, Mors is dead. Hothar is inside, so Hothar could easily and Hothar is supposedly on the Bolton side. He could just stay on the Bolton side. And all of these theories of Hothar like betraying the Boltons are wrong, and that actually like Hothar is completely on Team Bolton. I'm trying to think, like Small John. Small John is dead, and Great John is still alive. But it kind of doesn't matter. I don't know. You could easily, rather than it being Small John, it could be Hothar. Like, and he somehow, like, the Umbers get him, and Hothar is fine with that. You know, like, I could totally see this happening.
Yeah. Davos gets Rickon, and as they're leaving Skagos, they get captured by Umber men. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like they get to East Watch, they start their travel back south, and like, you know, he gets captured. Hold the Door.
All but confirmed.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Hold the Door, but also like everything about it, like him, like they mention a back door in A Dance with Dragons. Like they mention a back door. So like it seems like there's a fucking door. And
real quick, yeah. I kind of want to add a bit to the Umber catch Rickon thing, because you mentioned Eastwatch. They go to Eastwatch thinking they'd be safe because last time Davos checked, Stannis was, Stannis and Jon Snow. This is his brother. They can't stay there because Lord Commander Jon Snow has just had a mutiny on his hands. So the Watch is not really safe for any of Jon's relatives. So they got at least Eastwatch captured by Umbers. Sorry, I just wanted to add that in there. Hold the Door, yeah.
Pretty much. Okay, here's some weird ones. These are going to be trials by combat canceled. Cersei never getting a trial by combat.
That would be weird because with Robert Strong on her side, it's all but confirmed that she's going to win. So
yeah, or like all like the excitement, like why would you remove such an exciting thing that everybody's looking forward to, this trial by combat? And I always say, like, wouldn't it be a really sad gut punch if the Faith chooses Lancel as their champion and she has to watch Robert Strong like kill Lancel? Like, you know, or things like that.
Why would the Faith choose Lancel? Oh no, I'm sorry. I thought you said Loras. I'm sorry. I got them too confused. Continue.
This is one I just couldn't, just because on an entertainment sense, like why would anyone cancel the trials by combat? Like that's just so disappointing.
The High Sparrow could do some bullshit where he knows she's gonna win with Robert Strong as her chance. He knows, so he's gonna do some other type of way
Oh,
to
I mean
get
that
her.
all makes sense. That's all logical. I'm not saying the show is kind of logical with it. Like why would they put anyone against the mountain? But at the same time, like that's not fun. you know? Um we love trials by combat. That's like the fucking fun part of of the books, you know? Why would they do it? This is one where it seems like the show was trying to get stuff done cheaply or something, and just cancel the trial by combat. It's hard for me to believe that there wouldn't be a trial by combat. We love the fucking trials by combat. Okay, we have so many. There's the Vale with Tyrion, and then Sandor's trial, and Oberyn versus the Mountain. Like we fucking love trials by combat. Why would you cancel one? All right, the Exploding Sept. I think there's
That's
been,
all guaranteed because in Feast doesn't she burn the Tower of the Hand?
she does, and there's all the hidden caches of Wildfire. The Wildfire. The only thing that's weird is that the one cache beneath the Sept was already found. That's the only thing that's a little weird. That the only place that's actually safe from explosion in the whole city is the Sept, unless she just moves the stuff back, obviously. But like, it seems like it's also such a bold move that I can't see D&D doing it on their own. You know, having the Sept like blow up. You know,
It does remove a lot of players from the
yeah,
game. Like in the show it was Marjorie, Mace Tyrell,
yeah.
most of the I'm assuming the Tyrell cousins.
I
Um,
also think it's like it's you're killing God, the death of religion. Like I think there's like symbolic element to that. When you're talking about the pursuit for free will and things like this, these themes of the book that many people would be like, you're reading too much into it, Preston, and I'll be like, I don't know, man. I think that like it represents it, like thematically it fits so well as well. um Arya mass killing phrase. What do you think?
mm, mm, I feel like that's more fan fiction than anything. Very
Like
rarely in our story do.
Red Wedding 2.0 and all of that.
Ah, I feel like that's more fanficky than anything.
Yeah.
Because Arya was a fan favorite, so they're giving her a lot of cool stuff to do.
Right. I mean, a lot of people believe in this Red Wedding 2.0, but um, it's one of those things that like logistically doesn't make any sense. Like the phrase are spread all over the map. You can't get them all in one place. They weren't even all there for the Red Wedding. How are you supposed to get them all there for a mass killing? Like some are in Essos, some are women, some are children, some are babies. Like I, as much as like so many people are into Red Wedding 2.0 and having like House Frey go extinct, it's just logistically impossible. But this is the theme. Like, did George think of this and then he actually wrote a story that like does not fit that at all? You know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
This one's a toss up because a lot of what happens with Arya is very fan fiction,
Mm-hmm.
for the show only. Her killing the Night King, no shot.
Yeah.
So maybe this is part of it. I don't like her killing Littlefinger. That was so lame and so dumb.
Well,
I
the
don't know.
Night King is not
It's
even a thing in the book, right? So Arya killed the Night King.
as far as we know, that
Yeah.
could have been a George original. So
Yeah, it's true. That's true. You're so right. Mel mediates John and Danny, Dragonglass from Dragonstone. So in A Storm of Swords, Stannis specifically tells us that there's so much dragon glass on Dragonstone. Um, I see this one as probably like, yeah, like we need to make an army of people with like armed with dragon glass. I guess Jon has to like kneel to Dany. Um, this one fits. This one makes sense to me because I mean because we've
Hmm.
already had Stannis like in a very awkward line being like, "Oh, we've got so much obsidian on Dragonstone." Like he just like mentions this. You're like, "Okay, good to know." You know. Um,
I think the Dragon Glass on Dragonstone will come back, but Mel mediating the whole meeting between John and Danny, I don't know.
well, I mean, John coming back from the dead is once John, if John were to come back from the dead, like Mel would follow him, right, as like her religious leader, and then I don't know. I mean, that whole like I brought together ice and fire, like I don't know if that's gonna happen, but like, okay, here's some ones that may not. Jorah gets grayscale. Sam cures grayscale. Um, I'm gonna say this is one where I don't see this happening at all. Like there's just not like
No,
John Con is the one with grayscale, and
right.
Sam curing grayscale, like coming up with a way to like stop a plague, like that doesn't seem very George R. R. Martin. You know, like you'd think there'd be a big breakout and all sorts of people would die, rather than like Sam nipping it in the bud.
Sam all of a sudden becoming one of the greatest macers of all time on his first week
Yeah,
there. No, no shot.
yeah, I think this was something like they had John Con getting grayscale, and then they gave the plot to Jorah, and then they're like, "Fuck, we don't want to kill Jorah yet." And then, well, how are we gonna have him get rid of grayscale? We'll have Sam cure it, you know. So there's one where I think that like this is not George at all. Um, the Hound returns, sees a vision, goes to the wall.
Hound's the gravedigger, right? So.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing that makes me think that like the Hound is going to come back into the story is the story of the last hero and how there's a dog in the last hero story. That's the only thing
Hmm.
that makes me think that.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah, but there's not really any need for Sandor to come back. Um, but you know, but that's the thing. And maybe it was seeded with you know the companions and the dog and all of that. So maybe.
I do
Um,
think Sandor will come back, but final boss battle against the Mountain, no shot.
no, no, I don't think so. Euron Cersei marriage. I think that's pretty firm. Um, I think
Really?
yeah.
Ugh.
I think two major things for the Euron Cersei marriage. Um, one, the Forsaken chapter has like Euron with a like fire bride, and I think that fire bride is Cersei because of the wildfire. And then
Right.
two, there's just in the appendices, there's just way too many Westerland Ironborn connections where you're just like it just seems like this is all set up for an alliance. Um, you just don't have that with the Ironborn and say the North or the Ironborn and the Reach. You know.
Actually, you know what? No, that makes more sense now, considering as it stands now, the Tyrells are Cersei's biggest pain, besides the Sparrows, and
Mm,
Euron is basically going to be in the position to take them out.
yep.
So
Danny lands on Dragonstone.
that's certain.
I think it's certain too, just because that's where Rhaenyra is. Like Rhaenyra was on Dragonstone with a dwarf advisor. Like Danny's going to be on Dragonstone with a dwarf advisor. Like first Dance of the Dragons, second Dance of the Dragons. Like I think it's
It's
like
like
pretty.
poetry, it rhymes.
Yeah, yeah. Danny delays taking King's Landing for reasons. Danny takes Casterly Rock. I
If we're going by the
yeah.
Winds blurb,
Mm-hmm.
she wraps this up quick. She would have to. I mean,
Right, but at the same time, I mean, and granted, the show has to invent a different reason because there's no Aegon. But say Aegon gets a dragon, then Dany has the same reason for not taking King's Landing as Rhaenyra. Like, oh, I can't. There's dragons there,
in
and
the
I'm not right.
show, the only reason she doesn't attack King's Landing is because Tyrion is convincing her of all the innocence, and also because he
Mm-hmm.
wants to save his sister. Okay, fine. But in the books, there's no Tyrion's not gonna fuck about Cersei.
Tyrion hates his sister and wants to kill her. Right.
Right.
Um, So I could see the delay for if Aegon has a dragon, but I think the delay is for a different reason. I don't think she's against Cersei, so I think she's against Aegon, and then she doesn't take it for the same reasons of Rhaenyra, but then she does what Rhaenyra does, or whatever. Like Rhaenyra does eventually take King's Landing. Dany taking Casterly Rock. I mean, do you think it's useful that Tyrion knows the sewers and of Casterly Rock, and they all can go in through the sewers?
I feel like that does have to come back somehow.
Yeah, because the sewer thing is how they take Marine, because Brownbed Plum knows the sewers, and then we've established that Tyrion knows the sewers of Casterly Rock, so it seems like you could just do that again, and it rhymes.
Of course.
Grey Worm and Missandei romance.
That they're like two different characters at this.
This is one where I'm like, but this is funny. This is the one where like people actually liked it. They were like, the show did fine, did well with this. But yeah, there's no chance that this is happening in the book. We just don't have a POV on it either. There's just no like.
It's not only that, but forming first off, even to entertain it for a minute, George is trying to wrap this story up. This takes too many pages.
Yeah, I just also don't know any. There's no compelling romance stories that also don't have the POV being part of it. Like you'd have to see it in the background, or like Dany or Tyrion or whoever would have to be sitting somewhere and then overhearing them talk, and it's just their weird little. And plus, like Missandei is like an 11-year-old girl, so it's like disgusting, right? So like,
right, yeah,
it's yeah. Okay. Almost done with this. Randall Tarley, Warden of the South for Cersei. Dany kills Randall and Dickon.
So, like I said, I can see the Greyjoy fleets fucking up a good chunk of the Reach. In order for this to happen, Mace Tyrell and the other Tyrells need to be moved out of the way, and Cersei wants them out of the way. Randall Tarley is a very dangerous man, but also very important. If she's to hold the South, so
I could see this happening, but Randall Tarley, Warden of the South for Aegon, and then Dany kills Randall and Dickon in the Dance of the Dragons.
Okay, yeah.
I don't necessarily see him doing it for Cersei for the reason of this is an outsider or something, right? He doesn't have
right.
Ballistas being used against dragons.
That's almost certain.
A Euron and Yara Asha sea battle.
Yara's not even in the there's no shot.
Logistically, how is she getting a fleet and commanding a fleet for Euron to attack?
Even if she were to command Dany's fleet, because didn't Dany's admiral what's his name? I want to say Glorio, but I know it's not Glorio. It's what was Dany's admiral's name? But he died.
Grolio.
Yeah. I was so close, but I know Glorio is another character from another show. Even if Yara was going to be Dany's why would they would need to meet, and she would need to trust Asha, and I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean
that's show fanfic.
Right. The only thing that's kind of that gives me a little pause is that it's somewhat similar to the Gullet, that the gullet happens, and it's like this horrible shock on Rhaenyra. And so would there be a similar shock to Dany by sea? And it's like, okay, maybe, but I don't see how Yara is in there. Like
The only devastating sea battle I could see going down in Winds of Winter would be the Red Wine fleet against the Ironborn, because that's
yeah,
almost certain at this point, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
what do you think is going to go down? Euron's going to win that fight with Krakens rising
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
sea. Okay.
And then yeah, and then I don't know. We got to deal with Danny's um, fleet. I mean, something. I mean, I'll say this: Cersei. When you're talking about like these people with dragons, and then like Cersei coming back, um, having a huge fleet with Euron would explain it. Like that Danny never had a big fleet, and Aegon never had a big fleet. And so obviously when Cersei comes back with a huge fleet, um, that they can conquer the map really fast because no one else has a navy like that. So, and almost in a sense that like no more sea battles because Euron is just fucking going to take over because he's the only one left. But then maybe Victarion joins Dany, and then the gullet kills Victarion. I don't know. But Victarion was supposed to die anyway, so who knows? Okay, almost done here. Lannisters take Highgarden. The Olenna suicide reveal. You think that's that's gonna happen?
Where is the Lannister army right now?
The only big Lannister army is the host that's melting away at River Run. That they kind of the River Run surrenders, and so the host is like, okay, cool, war's over, and then they start melting away.
Again, that's Ironborn are right there, so I don't know.
It doesn't seem, because there's this whole like reach plot that seems a little weird. First of all, I think the Olenna is only like a boss bitch in the show. Like people only like really wanted to see her back in the show. I don't know if like George has the same like need for this Olenna Cersei rivalry that doesn't exist in the books. So like the rivalry doesn't exist, and therefore like having her commit suicide and be like, tell Cersei it's me, like it doesn't mean anything. Cersei never dwells on Olenna. She occupies zero rent. She is not living rent free in Cersei's head. Lots of people are living rent free in Cersei's head, and Olenna is not one of them. So like this is one where I think it might be a show only creation. The whole like Tyrell, which
is a shame because it's one of the best one-liners in the show.
Yeah,
like, tell Cersei it was me.
And I mean this just goes to show like how incredible of an actress Diana Rigg was, that she could take such little material and make a character that everybody loved. So I chalk it up to her, but yeah, I don't see that happening. Okay, and then similar to that, the Iron Bank being paid with Tyrell gold, and I don't see it.
That was random, even in the show.
Yeah. I mean, we see where the Iron Bank plot is going. Like it's interesting that the show, because the show could have easily just forgotten about the debt thing, and it would have been a plot that no one missed. And so it was really weird that they kept going with it. Like, no, we're bringing Tychonosaurus into this, and okay, all right, so that you can hire the Golden Company to like be defeated in 2 seconds. Like it's such a weird random plot. That Cersei, like, okay, say Aegon gets killed. can Cersei use money to buy the Golden Company? Because the Golden Company is now in Westeros, and she consolidates power quickly by buying the Golden Company.
I don't know about that. Because at this point they're acting more as a
sellsword company. I'm saying that, like, say in the show, say George's plans is for, like, Aegon is killed on his dragon by Dany, Jon Con dies, and then now you've got the Golden Company, and Cersei's just like, I got gold.
No Aegon, no Jon Con. Yes, I can see that.
Yeah. So this is turned around, that this is a maybe. I mean, not the Iron Bank, but, like, she just pays him directly now. Like, I'm gonna take up the Golden Company's contract. Okay. These next two kind of go together: the Armistice and the White Hunt. Do you think that they're gonna catch a White north of the Wall and
just
try
to prove
bring
something
it to King's Landing for an armistice with, like, all of the characters there?
No, and I'm going based off the Wind's blurb.
That Dany already kind of goes to the Wall and then is trying to unite the kingdom behind her. Yeah, I mean, this is more like, I kind of feel like the Armistice was more like, we got all the characters together, woohoo, come and watch, all the characters in one place, it's going to be crazy. And it wasn't that crazy. But the White Hunt is pretty silly. I don't know why. I don't know.
By the way, speaking on the Whites real quick, Quinn the GM hit me up privately, and he has an interesting thing about Arya. He thinks that her killing the Night King has more to do with her putting down Lady Stoneheart, seeing Catelyn could have been raised by the others in an earlier version of the story. So,
yeah, maybe. I mean, I wouldn't say that, like, the idea of people finishing each other's plots as a subversion of expectation. Like, I could see George doing that. Like, Arya's finishing Jon's plot. Like, Jaime is finishing, Aeron's plot and things like that. But, I don't know. It gets really hazy as you start getting to the end. The White Hunt, I don't know if the White Hunt makes any sense. I think maybe they could have an armistice where all the characters come together at, like, Harrenhal or something. I don't know about the Dragon Pit. All right, Benjen is a White.
Before that reveal, so do you remember a couple of years ago, I did a video on it. Remember a couple of years ago where like this, I don't know if it was a leaked page or something, I don't recall, but George's editor was talking about Cold Hands, and they wrote a note next to it like, is this Benjen? I think it's Benjen. And George flat out said no. So
but then at first, then what is Benjen's fate?
Yeah,
Benjen's got to come back somehow.
So unless he's secretly Dario, which that's great. An actual theory.
That would be great. I mean, it'd be great. I've been putting on this accent the whole time. I'm really from the north. My name's Ben. And I'm from Winterfell.
He comes with Dany and John Caesar at Dragonstone. So Uncle Benjen? What the fuck? Why are you? What?
Yeah. Man, yeah. My uncle fucked you too? Oh. It's not the incest that makes it all gross. It's the fact that my uncle fucked you. R plus L equals J. Yeah.
All but certain, but I wish he would just go no, it didn't mean anything. I wish to be fair, I think
the surprise with R plus L equals J was how irrelevant it was. I think
it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think in the book I think the twist in the book is R plus L equals J creates division between Jon and Dany somehow. That they're both rivals for the throne, and that division is going to be real and break them apart. And that that you all thought it was going to be something great, but it's actually something horrible. In the show, it ended up being nothing. It ended up being the reason Varys died, and no one cared. Like that's the only thing that came out of R plus Alec was J.
To be fair, what you just said, what you think is going to happen in the books, kind of happened in this show. Danny just kind of took John's word for it that doesn't want the throne because
Yeah.
he says it multiple times. I feel like he says it multiple times to her. At this
Yeah.
point, it's become so much of a meme. I don't know how many people he says it to. I think he says it to Sam, to Daenerys, and to
McQueen. Yeah.
I think he says it to Davos. Maybe I forget, but it seemed like it was gonna drive him apart, but it was just really Varys stoking the flames on
Right.
it.
And then, I
So
mean, other things were also driving them apart, though. You know, like the jealousy that he was getting so much attention after the battle in the north, the incest. Like, there's other things. I mean, I guess like the drop in the sexual drive, but like between them or something. But like, and actually, the thing that really drove them apart was she went and burned the city, right? He was all fine like in the end, except that last thing. It was a repairable relationship until she
oh, it's
burned the
trying.
city. Anyway, the fi-
The idea of his girlfriend getting upset with him because he won't fuck her, like
yeah,
she's just getting like, come on, dude, what the fuck?
the final thing is the white dragon. You think that's George?
In the blurb, doesn't it say that the wall comes down? So, hmm.
I think it's a little too bold. It's kind of like the sept where it's like it's a little too bold. It seems like it has to be George's idea, right? Like if you're trying to do an adaptation and you throw in White Dragon, I mean, say you're trying to adapt um, a book to the screen and you throw in a White Dragon. It's pretty bold, right? Like if it wasn't in the source material.
I'm mixed on the white dragon. On one hand, it's so cliche, but on the other, the rule of cool, it was kind of cool. I don't know. I'm mixed on it.
Anyway, I think overall we're back on this idea that all of these ideas of like stuff that happens in the show where it seems like stuff that George at least came up with on an earlier draft. I understand that many of them are not logistically possible. However, just because they're not logistically possible doesn't mean like George didn't think that that was going to be like the way the story was going at some point. Brienne killing Stannis, that kind of thing.